Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of, yes, Strategic Command World War I. This is the West Front, the sort of Schlieffen version of the game. And you know the drill. Hey, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I really want to thank all those who have not only subscribed, but have brought a friend or two along, like Old Crow has, and to the channel. And even if you or they don't always watch the channel, just that they're subscribed, they're around, that really helps so much. Okay. In between episodes, and we will get to what we're looking at, the last one down, Invasion of Brindisi. I think it's time to hug them more closely here. I was sort of looking, oh, well, there's a few sort of weakish units, but I think what we will do is move in and hug them. And my big problem is, you know, if you move in here, then if they have, reserved units all the way back here, they can hit you easily with 6 units, and that's just, you know, what you've seen, what I can do to that. But so let's see what we can do here. We're going to move here, and they don't. They are extremely weak. Stop and entrench. We're going to do this sort of World War I style. Move in and entrench. Yeah, that's the pattern we want. Okay, so that's got nice hugged close. Move in, we'll reinforce those guys. And here, yeah, now here I know they will potentially have a lot of units behind them, but I do think, because next turn we're going to focus on getting that guy. I think right now it's just better to let him survive. There is a bit of an outpost. Okay, so we've moved in. We've got do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? No, let's undo this. Let's move you to here. We may want to inch you one hex further forward next time to better bombard Paris. Let's move in our Paris guns. Maybe they can fire from here. Hit Paris. Okay, and we're gonna move. We're gonna hug you down into here as well. And let's do that. Now we're gonna continue with our pattern of attack. That, yes, by now I think any human AI would have long, any human, not AI, any human would have long determined that this is not the best pattern. Okay, here, let's see how many shots we have. 3 shots. We'll give him a firing. Yeah. Okay, I think that'll do it. Okay, good. That keeps this guy free to take them out. Okay. I did want to get the 2. We're going to leave those open. That's 4. We don't want to do 4. So we'll move you here, so because we still want to entrench. Straight down. That's what we want. Straight down, and you get to move into Verdun. Okay, so here, you come into here. we've got these guys, I don't know, to make some sort of exploit through. As you noticed last episode, we lost one core and quickly moved. Was it 2 or was it 3? I think it's just 2. Oh, I just made it, but I don't remember. Cores that were slowly marching west. Put them on rails and got them here fast. Yeah, no point in attacking even a little bit. And so they are bled white. Now we're gonna come down here. Let's. Yep. Okay. Identify where we are. Don't do any effective naval operations. Yeah, let's see if we can take out the battle cruiser somewhat. Yeah, I don't see why we wouldn't want to move out like that and connect those things. Oh, maybe we should have entrenched instead. Anything they move down via strategic redeployment, they will most likely not do well. Okay. The other ones that attacked, yeah, the other do that way. Okay, light cruiser fires at light cruiser. Retreats, that works. Battleship fires at light cruiser. Retreat. You go back to port, okay. Very good. Good going, Austrian Navy, good going. You get back to port. Those guys, yeah, they moved. Okay. So, we've cleared out some naval vessels and got into the heel of Italy. Yay. And here, ooh, that's at least likely hit. Yep, okay. Just sort of go hide. Now, let's see. Shortest path would be, I guess, down to here and land. Port. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Guess they're still in port. That's why we get to attack them. That only doesn't look good for us. These recon bombers. Okay, well, we don't need to take the damage. There we go. Now here, let's entrench. Let's take out that. I don't know if that's enough to significantly affect the surrender of the Greeks. Let the cavalry have their nice charge in and do a lot of damage to them. Okay, they were just deployed. Yeah, I think we're going to look at maybe these guys come down to here. The Bulgarian army may be invading. The Bulgars may invade the Roman Empire. I don't know if my love you guys to render judgment on me and my I don't know if it's passive aggressive campaign waging against the AI. If it's unrealistic. I think by now, whether it's 2 cores or 5 cores being killed every turn, a human player would go, oh shit, we're not doing this anymore after a while. So that's a little bit cheating, if you will. Now, historically, though, we look at the Caporetto Front, the Anzanzo campaign, which I think is the river's name. That was, 8, 12, something area. If you watch this, you can correct or somebody else on the number of them. Some incredible number of back and forth battles. And ultimately, with the end of Italy being on the winning side and, contributing materially to it, meaning it wasn't just a sitzkrieg, a phony war, a situation where both sides, leave a gap of 1 hex between each other or whatever the equivalent there would be. The Austrians, because this is actually quite, looking at this here, quite poignant to the point is the Italians holding behind a river, the Austrians holding in the mountains, leaving the plains sort of in between as a no man's land, if you will. Have they just done that and sat around and did nothing else and didn't literally or figuratively bleed for the cause, the Western Allies might have gone, yeah, Italy, sure, you coming in made Austria, put X number of divisions or corps or whatever along their front. But beyond that, you just, didn't do nothing. We're not going to reward you with anything. They might, that very well might be the situation. Now, I think most, if not all, shall we say, realistic war games, war aims were, achieved by Italy. I mean, sure, there were, I don't know what Mussolini, who was a socialist and, sort of becomes a socialist again later with the Italian social movement at the end of World War II. But yeah, sort of a more social fascist, if you will. But, his dream of Roman Empire, what and I don't know specifically what he was thinking during the war, but what other ultra-nationalist, new Roman Empirist kind of thing, as opposed to, just uniting, shall we say, the Italian-speaking peoples, whatever that might mean. Italy gets all of its war aims. It gets Trieste and this whole peninsula. It gets this part of the Tyrol, which is German-speaking, just as sort of more formally pushing out Austrian overlordship. Because to really understand the context within Italy, and even, like I say, this is a predominantly German-speaking area at this time. I'm not saying there weren't Italian-speaking peoples living there. I don't know. And I've definitely seen maps that sort of cover, that's too far zoomed out, this sort of greater area here with all these different ethnicities, often focusing on Austria. Some may predate World War I, some may be post-World War I, as sort of justifying various, Versailles and post-Versailles and Trianon and other sort of treaties. I know I butchered that last one, but justifying different treaties or wanting redress, saying, well, yeah, but there's all these Hungarians that are in this new, super Serbian state of Hungary, or not Yugoslavia, or something like that. But all maps, basically, that have any sort of national boundaries on them, even just minimally sort of national boundaries, are propaganda. They just are. Doesn't make propaganda, I'm not in any way saying, is untrue or incorrect. Propaganda, the best propaganda, is saying everything that's truthful. Maybe not mentioning truthful things that don't promote your argument. Now, of course, you can get, all the way to black propaganda that's not referring to somebody's skin, of course, but which is sort of putting out fake stuff that makes it look like it's from the enemy and that it's fake, and it's like making them look bad that they put it out there. But you can, of course, have your own completely untruthful propaganda. Baghdad Bob. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Baghdad Bob. I remember watching a live feed of Baghdad Bob. He was the spokesman for the Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq, the Ba'athist regime there. I remember giving him a live interview that was going out live over the world, network news feeds that I was watching. And, we're totally in control of Baghdad there, there's no U.S. units anywhere near there. And literally in the background, you hear U.S. units shelling or driving their tanks through Baghdad on the sort of highways, the Thunder Run or one of those, not the very first Thunder Run or whatever, but one of those early blasts into Baghdad. That don't pay attention. I mean, almost literally, don't pay attention to those like explosions. They're just training operations or whatever. I mean, just complete and total lies, saying don't believe that American tank flying the American flag driving by, that's just American propaganda on our streets or something. I mean, that's literally almost how bad Baghdad Bob became in the end. And it was truly comedy. So you have Baghdad Bob, or other people, saying, we've occupied, Trieste or something like that. No, you haven't. But so you can have, of course, entirely untrue propaganda. But all maps are propaganda, and definitely ethnic maps are propaganda. Again, they can all be 100% correct, but they're propaganda. So take that for what you will. And so I'm not trying to put aspersions on the maps makers, the maps publishers, or whatever, but we have to take it with a grain of salt to understand that just because it's in the map doesn't mean that it's true, and that the makers of the map didn't have their own agenda. So and so I don't know what the Italian population here, but to give the Italian context is not so much Venice, and maybe some more of the surrounding hexes there, but much of this is what the Po's rivers here, this sort of flat plain area here was under direct Austrian rule of predominantly Italian-speaking people. And there was other Austrian possessions. One of these islands down here, little coastal things that aren't even showing up there, that are maybe even smaller than the Isle of Elba, which is just maybe it is even Elba, I'm thinking, but I think it's one of the other. Um, I think it's one of the other smaller islands than even Elba. Um, had like three different governments ruling it. Sort of like the castle over here is you know a Bourbon possession. It's just basically a castle. And this is in the 18th century. This is, the latter part of the 18th century. This isn't some sort of Middle Ages, whatever. So there's a castle that's been somewhat modernized so that, it has cannons poking out of it and designed to defend there. But that's just like, and I'm making who's up, what's the different things. But, the castle belongs to the Habsburgs or something like this. And this town belongs to the Duke of Florence or something, and this other sort of peninsula village belongs to the Bourbon King of Naples or something. It was literally that sort of wackily divided up. And a good baseball player, not necessarily myself, but a good baseball player could throw a baseball from like the top of the castle and get to the far side of the island or something, almost literally. It's like a mile or less, or you maybe hit a baseball with a baseball bat. It's that small of an island that had like three different political entities that were not three warring villages, that were mad at each other and didn't no one could agree upon who would govern the other two, so they were independent. No, these were three different powers occupying. And so you had Bourbon kings down here in Naples, disappeared slightly for a while during the Napoleonic reign in here, but come back into power, and are basically in power down here until Garibaldi's army in the Italian Unification Wars pushes them out. And they were, of course, allied very much with the French monarchy when it was in power in France, because they come and go, or the Bourbon monarchy, shall we say, in France, and then the Spanish Bourbon monarchy. So, so you have this Austrian, or maybe I should say Habsburg, but this is much more of a situation up in here, in that they're German-speaking overseers, as opposed to where down here, basically all of the Bourbon kings are, the kings and some of the nobles are probably speaking French, but all of the standard officers and the standard enlisted men in the army are all locals. Literally, locals down to the Kingdom of Naples. And so it's not like French possessions with lots of French occupation troops, but up here it was much more of an Austrian show. So you have this history with Italy, and not so much caring about the ethnicity of the people, because I don't know that Trieste was ethnically Italian at all. It was part of the German-Austrian administration zone, even before it becomes Austria-Hungary, when it's still just sort of the Habsburg or Austrian empires at that point. And only recently, during the Napoleonic era, Napoleon and the French Revolutionary period, they've only recently lost the Austrian Netherlands. There was already sort of the idea of a Hungarian administration running this part down here that was already divided, and so that there was sort of a division between the Austrian Navy and what it's doing, and the German-speaking Navy and what it's doing, which I think actually had an English functional, not necessarily like the guy who's living in Vienna that controls it, who just technically in charge of it, but the actual guy who's actually running this small navy is, I think, a British guy, there, who's more or less immigrated and has his job of running the German-Austrian Navy. Wasn't really even communicating with the other squadron or whatever here that was That was sort of the Hungarian meaning. They didn't even they're over there. I don't know if we have their address. I don't know that we can even send them a letter. I mean, almost literally that kind of entirely negligent knowledge of what the other was doing. And this is, in the Napoleonic era. And also take this in context that the most advanced, most well-trained, and some of the most forward-thinking on technology, the undisputed best army, best equipped army, best trained army in the world at the time was the Austrian army. You got to remember, the Austrian army, although they gave it up by, 1795 or so, but around the late 1780s, early 1790s, the Austrian army had repeating rifles. And these were air rifles. Lewis and Clark ends up taking one of them. You may have heard about it, though it wasn't until recently I think we figured out that it wasn't actually one of the Austrian army's rifles. But this is an air rifle that has a cylinder on it, and they had a wagon that you would have a big, sort of like a mill grind that would go around in a circle, so you could put 6, 8, 10, I don't know how many guys walk around in a circle around it once you do it, to pump up rapidly pump up one of the air cylinders that goes on the back of the rifle. I think it was, either 1,000 or 10,000 hand pumps to pump up one of these things, and the rifle came with a hand pump to pump up the cylinder, and at least the standard leather kit that survives carries 2 extra cylinders on it plus the one on the gun, so he could get off maybe 60 shots. But that's pull the trigger, work a lever, pull a trigger, work a lever, pull a trigger. So, and then once you get through maybe 20 shots or something, and we don't know the actual condition, how good the Lewis and Clark, but they were, it would sort of work for the first 4 or 5 shots, and then it's still pushing the bullets out, but they're, no longer hitting the target because they just don't have enough energy. I don't know if the seals were quite up, because it was actually using leather seals and whatnot. How good a condition theirs was by the time they get it out on the frontier. 20 years later or something. I don't remember the exact date. Of that expedition versus when it's likely that it was made. But, and then unscrew it and then screw on another cylinder. So probably in just 3 or 4 minutes at most, you could shoot all 60 shots or something as effective. Remember, though, many soldiers going into main battles maybe had 30 rounds of ammunition, maybe 60 rounds of ammunition, depending on the cartridge box. I know a little more from the English use. A lot of their cartridge boxes just had 30 rounds of ammunition. So these guys may have had double the rounds of theoretical ammunition your soldiers are carrying. And of course, they may have a lot less at any one time. So it's, they can burn through their ammo in a flash, as it were. Yeah, thank you, very loud motorcycle. But they had these guns, and they were, by the sort of major campaigns that we know, that was at least the second half of them for sure, these had been withdrawn from service just because not quite that practical in the field, keeping them operating. But these were for light infantry skirmishers. And these were rifled and whatnot. And the many of, I don't necessarily say most, but many of the other Austrian army skirmishers had Doppelschützen. I'm butchering that a little bit, but that's what it was called. It was a double-barreled, 2 cocks on it, two locks, so 2 of each of those actually, but on it for the flintlock, and one was a smooth barreled and one was a rifled barrel on it. And the idea is when you're out there sort of skirmishing with the enemy at sort of longish range, you're going to load and shoot the rifle. And then if the enemy comes sort of rushing at you, you have that second smoothbore, which I don't know if the Austrians were commonly putting, buck and ball. It was definitely known in Europe in the military circles, like one ball and then several buckshot to sort of give a little bit more of a pattern. Not so much to hit like two people at once, but just because most of the attackers would be spread out enough not to in a skirmish warfare. But to shoot that reserve sort of barrel, but that would then become a primary barrel if they have to load and shoot fast, often like falling in with other troops or turning your light skirmish infantry that are all spread out into a quickly sort of rally square or rally, line of battle to where you're loading and shooting, and you want to speed that up. So that, these were, and that's like, more, probably fitting all that thing is probably at least 4 times the cost of your standard musket, because a rifle is easily double the cost of a standard musket, probably more. I don't know if somebody's done an analysis of it, and even buying them at scale, at military scale. And this wasn't a few gentlemen with these, because these kind of things have been around for 100 years, double-barreled, 4-barreled fowling pieces, particularly, which are, you can put a musket ball down them, but they're lighter barreled, and you don't want to have too much pressure because they're light, because you want to follow along with the bird and shoot them. There's 4-barreled fowling pieces, but these were gentlemen who could afford, at some level, because some of these things are super ultra decorated, unlimited amounts spent on a gun. If you're the Emperor of Austria, well, we could put diamonds all over it, but it probably scared the birds before we get there, kind of thing. I mean, they could, literally do whatever they want to. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a military rifle, and the Doppelschützen was built military style, rugged for the military. It worked well, but it was easily 4 times the cost of, I'm sure, because the locks, the rifling, all of that, and making it all precisely work together, and doing it for a bunch of them 4 times the cost of a regular musket. And they were in use. Those were definitely in use until the end of the Napoleonic Wars and the coming of the cap lock, and needing to. And I don't know if any of them were converted to cap locks by that point, but so they were used. So this Austrian army, just to draw the picture, was the super army of Europe. Now, way too slow, and Napoleon was able to beat it time after time, but that's a different thing. Had such a poor navy. Now, of course, we understand sort of why, but they even recently had naval forces. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so yeah, Italy gets its war aims. I'm remembering how I got down this road. By being in the war, gets Trieste, this peninsula gets split down here, and maybe a few of the other islands along the coast. It gets its sort of practical war aims, but it doesn't do so by military conquest. It does simply by being in the war on the winning side. Okay, well, yeah, let's continue with actual playing, because I do actually intend to play the game. I like talking. I hope you like listening to my talks. Okay, you're gonna fire, and you're going to oh, no more action points. Damn, they're losing. Is it detachments that I should be sending out into the desert? Actually, no, we're going to go there with you. Put you back there. I don't need more springing up in the rear. Yay, you actually got a shatter on that. Great, great. Okay, you come down, take this. You're going to ride out in the desert, which will get some attrition, but we'll hopefully get you to the road to get some supply. Let's just, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's going to be bad. And I see these guys here. Maybe pushing them back will get them more supply along So we can see the supply along the roads, and I knew it was going to be bad, but hopefully I can get through it before it gets too bad. It's just going down around, just take a long time. We're going to keep these guys here. We're going to move these guys down here. We're going to move this core here, just so that we have forces. Okay. Since you're not doing particularly good as a naval bomber, what's that going to cost? I guess we're going to spend that. Yeah, I don't know about the supply, but it'll be able to hit more targets potentially. So we want to put pressure here, even if we are going to do a naval landing with other forces, and we very well may have the artillery, you know, come in a follow-up wave of any sort of naval attack. Okay, well, since we're not getting a serious French reaction to that, and I guess we're even seeing the revolt flag in charge down here, we're going to continue moving on. Okay, Algeria is now on the table. So, we're going to purchase. I guess that's all we can purchase now. We're going to purchase a regular unit to come in here. While we continue our Arabist revolt. Beware powers who win by destroying the society you're fighting may have very, very negative consequences. Germany, World War I. That's who I'm referring to. Oh, no, let's grab a further back unit. We're going to walk some of them. Let's walk the units that are a bit closer. Forward, okay. Those two can be reinforced, shall be. All right, that's good. They see down to here. Okay, they can get to here, only in here. These are the assault bombers. Okay. We're eventually going to want to do that. Recon bombers, I should say. When dealing with Paris. Oh, we're going to stay in contact with you, do we? No, we can't attack this turn. Oh, let's move you just to make sure we're always moving a little bit. That may be cut off very soon. Okay, up here. Do we want to? Oh, yes, we want to. Yeah, because I think I can get them away here. Let me see. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I do know there's that Italian light cruiser that we will see about very soon. Hopefully we can get them back to port before anything sinks them. Here we go. There we go. Okay, destroyers, you come here. Next turn we'll come out somewhere out here and These guys are getting to have victory parades as they march through. Germany. I guess we can move them up. I don't know if we're going to do a Jutland either, on the basis of I don't know if I'm going to sally forth my surface fleet or not, or whether the British would do anything about it. But we might as well have a few forces a bit more forward. Or just get to stay there. So far we haven't seen the Americans come in, but let's look at that. Okay. USA at 33%, so that's doing pretty good. Portugal. Yeah, I don't think I need to invest, because I don't know that I really want Denmark or Estonia or whatever actively joining, or the Netherlands, Norway. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. Okay. Recon bombers would be nice, because Germany, we sort of completed the, yeah. And maybe fighters, I guess. Austria. We're still just buying for Austria. We should get more detachments, but we'll live. Artillery, railgun. Railguns with Ottomans, I just don't know if there's going to be anywhere. And they have 55, so we're going to put in fighters. And no, not this turn. Maybe next turn. We already just got two. We can look at our production. We just got two artillery for the Ottomans, so they're buying a detachment for Algeria, and fighters. They're doing naval. Maybe I should do some more naval. We'll look at that for Austria. And a replacement corps for the one we lost, and a bunch of aircraft, mostly for Bulgaria. Okay, Austria, battleship, heavy bombers, destroyer. Yeah, that would be useful. Okay. What did I? Okay. Well, no, that was. Where did I bought it for. Oh, Ottomans. I was on the wrong one. Okay. Yeah, let's. Okay, let's buy for actually Austria, though the destroyer for the Ottomans isn't a bad idea either. I'm more worried about actually getting worry about, I don't know what heavies. Okay, well, I guess just one destroyer for now. Getting them done in time to. These all moved, right? In time to get them to be useful. Maybe I'm being overconfident in my. Yeah, I don't know. I want to do that. In my expectations of victory, but it's just looking really, really good here around Paris. They have British holding Paris. And already before this, having HQs on the front line. I'm doing reconnaissance with my Zeppelins. Okay, they do have a unit there. Oh, they've got a bunch of units there. Let's look here. The British have a bunch of units. Oh, there's an HQ there. Okay. Okay, that was useful. British AI is holding this flank down because maybe that's what the British are supposed to do. They've filtered units in there. There very well may be here. Well, they can't get down there. Okay, well, we'll see later on whether there's more deep in here, but okay, well, we're going to end this episode. I know it went long with my little talk on Italy and whatnot, but thanks everyone for making it this far. You don't know how much I appreciate all of you watching. Thank you so much. See you next time for more historical gaming.